Today, we're taking a peek behind the scenes at Michael Hyatt's Mac and Ecamm Live Studio. So here's a little bit of a background story for you. Years ago, David and my team at Live Streaming Pros actually built Michael Hyatt's custom live video studio so that he could create more professional video, live video, and webinars. And at the time, we actually set him up with a PC in his studio. I believe he argued with us at the time because he's a big Mac lover. But as Ecamm Live grew as a live streaming software, started doing more and more and got better and better, he actually made the switch full out to Ecamm, and he's going to share with us how he's using Ecamm, why, of course, and we will get geeky and chat all about the gear that he's using. So if you're new, type new in the comments. I would love, love, love to meet you. And if you are new, then you probably don't need me. Hi, I'm Larry Petrucci from Live Streaming Pros, where I help you create more professional video and live video that is uniquely you. And this is the show I do in partnership with Ecamm Live, my favorite live streaming software for the Mac, where we dig into how to get more out of Ecamm and increase your live video results. Welcome to Go Live Now. And it didn't, that was a fail, but it happens. You know what? It was supposed to go to a video, but I think I deleted it on accident. So let's keep moving. If you don't know Michael Hyatt, he helps high achievers like you and me win at work and succeed at life so that you can truly have it all. He has helped over 1 million leaders do just that, including me, although I am still a major work in progress. He has written 5 international best-selling books. He's been featured in the Inc. 5000 list 3 years in a row. But beyond all of that awesomeness, he is truly one of my favorite people in the world, because at the end of the day, here's a little secret about Michael. He's just a geek who loves new tech toys and software as much as the rest of us, as you'll see today. And he chose to spend today, his freaking birthday, with you and me. Happy birthday, Michael!
Thank you.
Yay!
Great to be on with you, Luria.
I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Those of you who did not watch the pre-show, we have a countdown timer, which is why I'm out of breath, because we were dancing our booties off.
Me too.
I think Michael won for sure. You did a fantastic job. I don't know, you have a special move. What would you call that?
I don't know. It's a little bit of that. Oh, what was that movie, that fashion movie where the guy, I don't remember. Anyway. I don't know.
I call it the Michael Hyatt move.
Yeah, maybe it's just my own thing.
So can you share with us the story of your move to Ecamm and why?
Yeah, so you really got me into live streaming, you and David, and I'd be forever grateful. And what I felt like I got in that was not only a great live streaming studio, but a friendship with both of you. And that was pretty awesome all by itself. And so you've been to Franklin, where I live, Franklin, Tennessee. You've been to our home a couple of times, and it's been awesome. But one of the things I'm not a big fan of is PCs. And I'm not like I know that for some people they're awesome.
Yeah.
And I think it's all what you get used to. But for me, I just got tired of having to go back and forth between the world of Mac and the world of PC, and I found that Ecamm works the way I think. And so It was love at first sight. When I first tried it, at your encouragement, I went, oh my gosh. I mean, it took me maybe a day to kind of understand how scenes work. And I'd sort of replicated that in vMix. And initially I thought, well, I'll build this studio as an Ecamm studio in my office, and I'll leave the vMix studio upstairs in my home. But then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, no, that makes sense. So I'm in the process, as I told you before we got on the show today, I'm in the process of converting my main studio to an Ecamm studio as well.
That's awesome. So I asked for pictures, and he was like, nope, you don't get pictures until I'm done with it. I'm like, darn it. I thought I was your friend, Michael.
Well, I want you to be proud of it. And I've got furniture being delivered today. And so, as you know, in that studio, I didn't actually have a set.
Yeah.
Because the way it was set up, I just didn't have enough of depth of field. But now that I've got these new Sony A6100s in my main studio, I was able to move my desk forward about 5 feet, create enough depth of field, And now I've got actual furniture being delivered today that's going to be my set behind me. And so that's going to be cool.
I love it. So, you're in this process of like moving, but your office is pretty set up. So you guys, here in just a few minutes, we are going to do a little behind the scenes tour for you. So Michael is going to show you all of the gear that he's using, because I know that's your main question. What gear are you using, Michael? So if you have questions, here's what I want you to do. Go ahead and type Q in front of your question so that we can ask Michael and talk to him about what you want to know as well. But do type Q and don't ask your question twice, please, so that we make sure that our moderators can grab all of your questions. Okay, so you talked about, you know, why you like Ecamm, because it works the way you think, which I find as well. It's very intuitive. And so how exactly are you using Ecamm? What things do you do in your studio?
Well, basically I do three things. I mean, in addition to just my normal Zoom calls, I mean, my entire life feels like it's lived on Zoom right now. You know, I have a virtual life like everybody else does. This is pandemic life. So I use it actually inside of Zoom. So I was at a board meeting the other day where I was asked to present on my new book, The Vision-Driven Leader. And they didn't know on Zoom, but I was actually piping Ecamm through as a virtual camera. So when it came to my time to present, I had lower thirds, I had other kinds of graphics, and of course, you know, everybody's mind explodes and they're like, how are you doing that? Is that a Zoom feature? No, it's Ecamm. So I do use it inside of Zoom, but then I use it for live streaming, and I do a lot of live streaming inside our private Facebook group. So I don't do a lot publicly. Occasionally I do. I did a couple last week for the new edition of the planner that we just published, the pocket edition of the Full Focus Planner, but mostly it's inside of my group. So live streaming is number one. Number two way I use it is for webinars. So this has been really fun, Luria. I've had to rethink webinars completely. In fact, and frankly, inspired by you, because sort of the old, tired way to do webinars, in my opinion, is where you take a Keynote or a PowerPoint deck, and you just kind of flip through the slides. And
it's voiceover.
The way I did it in the past is I would come on at the first part of the webinar, you know, with the camera so you could see me. Then I would go off camera and you just watch these slides. And I'd go through 150, 200 slides, something like that. And I said, so what if every slide in Ecamm corresponded to a scene? And so when I'm making a major point, instead of putting a slide up, I did a lower third. So my goal was to stay on camera as much as possible, because I felt like that would be more engaging. And again, I learned that from you. You were doing that a couple years ago, maybe longer than that. But nobody's doing that right now outside of you and maybe me. There's probably people I don't know about.
Amy is doing it as well.
Is she doing it?
Well, in terms of like having her face on screen as well, Amy Porterfield,
Yeah, that's awesome. So, which was kind of fun because I actually met with Amy last week and we spent about an hour going through my Ecamm setup, and I was showing her how I was doing it, because I typically will have on a webinar inside of Ecamm 150 to 200 scenes. Okay, so
that's insane.
So this is I wondered if Ecamm could handle it.
Yeah.
No problem.
You asked me, and like I think you're very involved in the Ecamm community as well. Guys, I told you he's a geek. Like he's a total tinkerer. He loves to mess with this stuff, and he's been very active in the Ecamm Live community. So thanks for that and being, you know, so participatory and did I say that word right?
You're welcome.
But yeah, and by the way, Eileen says, while we're thanking you, thank you for spending your birthday party with us. Michael, you're awesome. Thank you for the super chat, Eileen.
Thank you, Eileen.
So, so you had basically a single scene for every slide.
That's right. So like, for example, you know, I do lower thirds for the major points, and my webinars are pretty structured. So I might have like 5 points that I'm making, and there'll be a lower third that comes up for each of the major points. When I have a quote or, you know, a diagram or something like that, then I'll do a picture-in-picture with a cutout. And by the way, I produce all the graphics myself inside a Keynote, and they're almost all animated. So okay, this is going to get real geeky, but for those of you that are interested, so I create, and I'm a little bit of a graphic designer too. So I create the graphic inside a Keynote, I animate it the way I want, and then I export it as a movie, that single slide as an exported movie with all the animations. And the way that you do that inside of Keynote is you have to export it as a custom movie file at 1920 by 1080. And then you have to use the ProRes 4444, 4444 codec so that it maintains transparency. And then you get a little movie file. And then all you have to do is load that into Ecamm as an animated overlay. And I am getting geeky, but that's what I do. That's what I do.
Exactly.
And so it's a process. So webinars, let me just finish this. So live streaming webinars. And then the third thing is I'm recording a lot of video. So for promotional videos or teaching videos or tutorial videos, I do those with Ecamm too. So I have a stream deck and it makes it just like super, super simple to do.
Yeah. And you guys, you're asking a lot of questions about, do I have to have an assistant to set all of this up? Michael, you did all of that yourself, didn't you?
I did. The only thing I've worked with Paul, your designer.
Yes, the magical Mr. Paul Dixon.
Paul Dixon is phenomenal. He set me up with a custom countdown timer that incorporates my logo and all that. Mm-hmm. And so I even got from him the After Effects file so I could modify the colors, myself for each of my brands.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I do all that myself. And one little hack too that's good, if you're going to do this yourself, I set up a template file in Keynote for each of my major brands. So I don't have to start from scratch, so that when I'm setting up a new show, I just pull up that template, I rename it, and then I've got every version of a master slide, I call them master slides, but a template that I want to use, and it makes it very quick for me to set up a show.
Okay. And speaking of templates, do you also have several different folders of scenes in Ecamm so that you have different shows, for your webinar setup, for your streams?
Yeah, I always set up every show inside of a folder, which makes it very easy to drag that out to another folder in Finder.
Yes.
So that I can save the configuration of that show. And then, like, for example, I'm re-recording a webinar. I did part of it yesterday. I'm going to do part of it today. But I'm re-recording a webinar that I've done before, so I just drag that configuration folder out of Finder back into Ecamm, into the scenes, I don't know what you call that, but to the scenes window. And then bam, then I've got it all set up.
I love it. I love doing that. And that's a hack that a lot of people don't actually know about. So, but also in regards to the way you set up your webinars and all of those different scenes, you guys don't have to do it exactly like Michael did. There are multiple ways to accomplish any one thing. Yep. So don't feel overwhelmed or anything like that. And I will be doing, I have new tutorials in the mix for the new versions of Ecamm. So those will be coming out very soon for you guys as well. So stay tuned for that. By the way, all the links that you're asking about for Michael's gear that's coming up, we're going to be showing you behind the scenes here in a second. Also for the all the, how to get Ecamm, free trials, and all of that good stuff. Those links are also in the description. So you have all of the links at your fingertips. I don't know what I was saying there. Michael, do you ever get fearful of live video, or have you been around the block long enough that you're just like, whatever, it's all good?
Well, let me just say this. When I started, I was terrified. So I sometimes jump in the deep end just to kind of get the fear to go away. And so this was about maybe 3.5 years ago. I decided I guess it would have been 3 or 4 years ago now, I decided that I was going to go live on Periscope, back when that was, kind of the live streaming platform, and it still is, but I decided I was going to go live every day for 30 days. And so I did it at lunch every day, and I just usually had a tip or something. And so I started off very wooden, very awkward, very, fearful. I'm sure my voice was shaking, and I felt, you could probably see the sweat running down my sides of my face. And so there was all the technology to control, and there was, what am I going to say next, and all that. But what I found is that the more I did it, the less fear I had. And honestly, Luria, this live streaming today is my single favorite thing to do. I would rather live stream than anything else that I do in my business. And I can pretty much, at this point in my business, I can do pretty much what I want. The team, I have a big team, and they give me the luxury of doing that. But live streaming is my favorite thing. But it wasn't always that way, which I think just proves that practice makes perfect, or practice makes better.
Yeah, there is no perfect in live video, but you just made my heart sing, Michael, with that statement that live is the thing that you would most prefer to do in your business because it's so much fun. You get to have these conversations with people. Practice. Oh, there we go. I like this phrase. Practice makes confidence.
Oh, that's perfect, Caleb.
That is perfect. And I'm going to steal that, Caleb, if you don't mind, because I have Lita coming up in August, live every day in August, speaking to what Michael was just talking about, the confidence that you gain from going live every single day. So if you guys are interested in doing that kind of challenge yourself, I will guide you through everything, what you say every day. I'll give you missions to accomplish every day. So look forward for more information on Lita live every day in August very soon. So, all right. So shall we get to the behind the scenes? I think everybody wants to see the gear that you're using. So I'm going to let you take away this little tour. And
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you feel free to interrupt me,
okay.
But I'm going to have to move back a little bit. So I'm using an iPhone that's tethered to my iMac Pro, which you're about to see. And I'm using a iPhone app called Shoot. There's a lot of other ones, Epoch.
Yeah, I use Epoch. Others. He uses Shoot. Finger. Finger alert. There we go. This is your office. And this is a separate office that he has. And so I'll let you take it, Michael.
Okay, so I'm going to walk in here a little bit closer so you can hear me a little bit better. But the heart of it is this iMac Pro. So this is something I've wanted for years, but could never just justify the cost. And you don't need this kind of machine to do it. But don't tell my team, because I told them I absolutely had to have it.
Oh, yes. It's a secret, everybody. Shh.
Yeah, shh. So that's at the heart of it. And then I've got a second monitor over here that's an LG monitor that's very high resolution, very much like the iMac Pro. And then up here, I've got a couple of, let me just show you these. These are Elgato Key Lights, which I absolutely love because they're controlled. I can control them on my Stream Deck, but let me just show you this too. So I can actually control them right here. You can see that. So I can change these are both of them. I can change the warmth or the temperature, and I can also change the brightness. Then I have a Stream Deck down here, which I've got a 32-button Stream Deck in my main studio, but this is the smaller one, but it's sufficient. And the way that I manage my webinars that makes it so easy is that I can just advance to the next scene, which is just like flipping slides in the world of Keynote. Then I have, and let me just show you this. So I've got a teleprompter. I've actually has two cameras here. So this happens to be a Sony a6400.
Okay.
I would buy the a6100 if I was buying one from scratch. That's a Sigma 16 millimeter f 1.4.
Mm-hmm. And all these links are in the description, guys.
That's right. And that lens is phenomenal. I love that lens. And then I've got the same thing behind the teleprompter, but it's an a6100, which is a cheaper version of the a6400 and does everything you need.
Okay.
But it's got Go ahead.
Well, can we talk about the prompter for a second, just to make sure that people know that you're not actually this close to your prompter when using it, correct?
Well, I'm about 5 feet. Actually, what you're seeing right here is how close I am to it.
Oh, is that 5 feet?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. About 5. Okay.
And I'm using, though, a Sigma 30 millimeter there because the wider lens picks up the edge of the teleprompter. Does that make sense?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be very careful about the lenses that you put with a prompter.
Now, one of the things that I love is that I'm using this iPad, a large iPad, as my monitor. So that's my confidence monitor. So what's getting streamed out to the world shows up right there. So that makes it very easy for me. If I want to, glance down and see what's going out to the world, I can do that. I only use the teleprompter for webinars, so I don't use it for live streaming.
Right.
Typically. Or if I'm recording something that's, script intensive, then I'll use that. In terms of microphones, these are Rode NT5s. I've got two of them. So I have one of them that's a little bit over here. So if I'm in front of the teleprompter, it's going to pick me up well. But then if I'm in front of my main computer, that's going to pick me up.
And so then you have your scenes set to change mics when you're changing cameras, correct?
Actually, I just leave them both on.
Oh, okay.
So I have a Rodecaster
Oh, okay, yeah. The
Pro down here.
Rodecaster Pro, yeah.
Yeah, I always forget. So yeah, this is awesome. I did
Hmm.
label the buttons so I know what the sound effects are. So,
Wait,
but yeah,
hold
these
on,
are.
hold on. When do you use the crickets?
I I don't use. I should use the
Oh.
crickets more because a lot of times my jokes fall flat, and that would be perfect, if I did that.
Oh, that would be
But
awesome.
then I also have over here a Heil PR40, which is my old faithful podcaster mic, but I only pull that out when we're recording podcasts because I you just can't beat the sound. It's just a great mic.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
great mic.
Okay, so let me see what else to show you. Oh, this is awesome. I don't. Have you tried this yet? The shuttle?
Okay, so no, here's the deal, guys. Real quick, I'm going to come back to me. So I actually use this little Griffin Power Mate for my prompter control, and that's what you're using it for, right? So yeah, so they stopped selling these, and so what? Oops. Oh, where'd you go?
Nope.
So they stopped selling. Oh, okay, okay. I'll let you know when I'm coming. So they stopped selling the Power Mates, and Michael took it upon himself to actually find out, which versions or what other devices could be used in exchange for the Power Mates, because you can't find these things except for on eBay for like a couple $100s. So yeah, so you walk us through what versions you tried, because I know you grabbed like 2 or 3 and you settled on the Shuttle Express.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you this. So I've got actually the teleprompter pulled up now. I use software called Power Prompter, and believe me, I've tried them all. This is, in my opinion, the best. So this happens to be a webinar talking points. And so here's the cool thing. So if I push this button right here, it'll stop the whole thing. So if I push that, it stops the teleprompter. And this dial speeds it up or slows it down. I can go back to the top of the script if I push that button. I can set bookmarks, which I have mapped here and here. And so that just makes it very easy. I can control the whole thing, and it's very invisible to anybody else.
Yeah.
So typically when I'm running this, I'll have the Stream Deck over here, and I run that with my right hand, and then I run the Shuttle Express with my left hand. And so it makes it very simple to control the show.
I love that. Okay, so real quick, you actually so because Michael is such a geek, I sometimes take his advice. Like he paid us to build out his studio, and then I took his advice on a couple of things, which were these earbuds, and they're super cheap, the Mi M6s. And then I'm also going to steal your advice for the Shuttle Express, because I've been looking for an alternative to the Griffin Power Mate. So thank you for allowing me to steal your advice.
Absolutely. Well, I found that the Griffin, I had one of those too, and I found that it was just unreliable. I kept having to unplug it and plug it back in, and I got frustrated with it.
Did you?
But
Okay.
the Shuttle Express is just, it's an
Fantastic.
awesome piece of, as they say in England, awesome piece of kit.
Yes. So what other questions do you guys have about his studio? And he can take you behind the scenes and let us know. But we're going to tackle other pre-asked questions while we were doing all of this conversation. But how has this been for you guys? Are you loving it? What is the biggest takeaway so far that you've taken from Michael's conversation here? And by the way, speaking of conversations, Michael has amazing podcasts, Lead to Win, and your team has another one. Can you tell us about your podcast and where they can find them?
Yeah, so I do a podcast with my oldest daughter, Megan, who also happens to be the COO of our company, and it's called Lead to Win. And so we talk about various issues related to leadership, because that's kind of how I characterize myself, as I'm a leadership coach. And we deal with, and our company's a leadership development company. But then we have another podcast called Focus on This, which I'm not on, nor is Megan, but we have 2 of our teammates do that. And it's all about all things related to productivity and using the Full Focus Planner, which is a product that we developed a few years ago, and we've sold 250,000 of those so far, and it's one of the biggest parts of our business now.
I love that. And when, I just want to say this because a lot of our audience and a lot of Ecamm's audience may not classify themselves as leaders. However, I think that we all have to shift our brain space because it felt when I first, started consuming your content, I was like, ooh, no, I'm just a person. I just have a business. Like I'm not a leader. Can you just talk to that a minute?
Absolutely. So basically, if you're in a position of influence, you're in a position of leadership. So leadership is not about position. It's not about having a title. It's about how you influence other people. If you've got followers, if there's people you're influencing to behave in a different way, to adopt new habits, to new ways of thinking, that makes you as a leader. And that's why Luria is a leader, because Luria has influenced me. I followed her lead in a number of different areas. If you have a live streaming show, you're a leader. You're influencing other people. You're trying to have an impact on them, and that makes you a leader. So I would just challenge you to begin to take on that self-identity, that of a leader, and just own that identity because you're leading.
And I want to thank you for making me take on that identity because it has made a massive difference in our business as well.
Awesome.
So we have a ton of questions, and I want to make sure I get you going on time because it's your birthday and you have a very busy day today. So Emmanuel says, what's the total budget for acquiring the complete Michael Hyatt live streaming kit?
Let me just think here for a second, do the rough calculations. I would say if you don't count the iMac Pro, because this will totally screw up your budget.
Right.
Okay. But if you got geek money to throw it away, it's awesome. But I would probably wait till the end of this year when I think Apple's going to announce some new ones. But I think most of this you could get for under 10 grand. By the time, if I take into account everything, the cameras, right, the lenses, the Elgato lights, all the little pieces and stuff, the teleprompter and all that, probably under $10,000. Now, what's amazing about that is when I built the vMix studio with you, Lori, with you and David, that was probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that was probably close to a $40,000 to $50,000 investment.
Yep.
But the price of everything has just come down. Live streaming is cheaper than ever.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say this, Michael, has the ability to spend that budget as well. You guys don't get scared by that budget because
that's right.
What we've done is we actually have a workshop where we drill down into the budget options. So if you want to spend more money to get better stuff, great. But that link is in the description as well. But we take you through basically the setup that we do for other people like Michael. We drilled that down into a DIY workshop to simplify it and to minimize the budget that you are spending. So it is possible. And I don't want you to get scared by the numbers that he just threw out.
Wouldn't you say that you could get probably 90% of the look of this for maybe $1,000 to $1,200?
So I would say 15 to 3,000.
Okay.
Yeah, would be around the budget that you're looking at. But you can also build it over time. You don't have to spend all of that
That's
at
right.
once. So, okay. So what does Petra wants to know. By the way, Petra sent a $10 super chat earlier saying, because you both rock, fully focused. She is fully focused. I love it. Petra
Awesome.
said, what does Michael like most about his new set, apart from Ecamm, of course?
The cameras. Honestly, so like this soft focus that's behind me, the first time I saw the iPhone that had portrait mode, I thought that's got to come to video because I'm kind of a camera geek and have been into still photography for years. And I had a very elaborate Canon setup for my still photography with the best lenses and the best cameras and all that stuff. And we would always shoot when we would build in bring in a film crew to shoot some video that we were doing, like a course or whatever. I just loved how they were able to do that. But I could never do that with a webcam or even those initial Sony cameras, the bigger Sony cameras that I had in my initial studio. But when David turned me on to these Sony A6100s with the Sigma lenses, I went, that all by itself totally converted me. I said, I've got to have those, and now I've got 4 of them.
I love that. They are fantastic, fantastic cameras. So a couple people are asking about sitting versus standing, and both you and I love to stand. Why do you like to stand?
Well, it's funny because like Amy Porterfield, she sits,
Yeah.
right? And so many people sit, and I
Yeah.
wished I could sit, but like I just have, I feel like more energetic, more
Yeah.
present when I'm standing. What about for you?
Exactly the same. I have more energy. I speak better. I feel my brain feels more on
Yep.
top of things. And I couldn't dance during the countdown if I was sitting. Hello.
Hello.
And
Exactly.
I couldn't get Michael to dance during the countdown if he was sitting. So I'm all about the standing. Also, somebody wanted to know what's the background? Tag actually asked, what is your background when you're reading from the prompter? Is it different?
Yes. You want me to?
Yeah.
I wonder if I could do that here. Let me just, because I'm actually funneling this through Ecamm. So let me just say, I'm not happy with this background because this really is my office. I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay. But the one I'm doing in the main studio is actually going to be a set. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing that. But let me just show you. So that's what it looks like if I'm doing
Oh, okay.
through the prompter.
Do you draw the curtains down or do you leave them like they are?
No, I usually leave them open unless maybe I'm doing a webinar where I'm trying to make it feel like it's timeless,
Okay, yeah.
so that people can't tell that it's the time of day, so that if they're watching it
Right.
in the evening,
They're
I mean,
like,
we don't tell people it's live, right? Because
right.
I don't want to deceive people that it's live because it's usually recorded. But I do. But let me just say this: I do a lot of live webinars, and I prefer to do them live. But then when I'm not doing them live, my team wants an evergreen webinar that they can run all the time. So
Blame the team.
blame the team.
Okay, so a lot of people are asking actually about the watermark. So you all know that I'm bringing Michael in via Skype. And when he's on camera in his full screen here, I am not actually, I actually use the pan or the zoom and pan feature of Ecamm in order to zoom him in to get rid of the zoom or the Skype watermark, just so you guys know. I can't believe so many people are asking that.
That's a pro tip. I love that.
Yes, I love hiding that watermark as much as possible. Oh, did Michael just switch cameras? Can that be done in Ecamm? Absolutely. Yes, that's what
That's what I
Ecamm is
did.
all about. Okay, so big takeaway, Rick says multiple cameras and a wider lens for the teleprompter. Question 2, does he ever use a custom background, and does he drill, rehearse, practice going live beforehand? That's a great question.
Um, so I do in my studio, Luria, you know this. We had a shallow depth of field,
Yeah.
and I wanted to create the illusion of depth of field. So I went to a company called Alpha Graphics, which is kind of a quick print service. They're all over the country. And they hooked me up with these screens that they can actually print on. So these were about 10 feet wide and about 8 feet tall. And so what I did was I had a photographer friend of mine come into the house and shoot various parts of my house as though I were standing in front of that set. And then we would blur them so they were slightly out of focus, and it created the illusion that I was being shot, in an environment with a camera that had a shallow depth of field. So you saw that,
Yeah.
Lori.
Yeah,
And
it
so I
works
had a
really
variety
well.
of those. Yeah, it worked pretty well. I mean, it's not. I think it was a little bit better than the typical green screen,
Yes, definitely.
but not as good as a real, background. So I'm going to have a real background when I get into there. What was the second part of that question?
Um, do you ever
Or
drill,
rehearse?
practice, or rehearse? Yeah, before.
You know, I would like to tell you that I do, but the truth is, so like one of the things that we use a lot in our business coaching practice is an assessment called the Colby assessment. And I won't get all the details of that, but one of the things I am is a quick start, which means that I usually do best when I'm thinking on my feet and when I don't have a lot of preparation. So for live streaming, typically what I do is that I will have an outline. So I actually construct the show, and I'll have an outline and I'll have a flow, some major points I want to make, but that's it. Because I don't like to get on and waste people's time, and I want them to feel like they have a takeaway so that there's a structure to it. but it's really minimal. Like for example, if I'll do a live broadcast like I did last week for the Pocket Edition of the Full Focus Planner, I may have 3 to 5 points that I make, and those are usually lower thirds that I've created in Keynote and then exported as movies and brought them in as overlays into Ecamm. But that's about all the preparation. I don't really know what I'm going to say until I go live.
But that's the thing, is you have to know who you are, right? And how you work best. So
That's right.
I would never, so some shows I would go live just on the fly. Q&As are easy for me to do on the fly. Certain shows where I just know what I'm talking about in and out, that I talk about all the time, easy to do on the fly. However, this show, I wasn't going to bring the Michael Hyatt on the show without preparation, right? So like I knew exactly what I wanted to get across. I had preparation, I had bullet points. So you need to understand kind of how you work best and go as such. Don't just follow what somebody else does because
I totally
you admire
agree.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, how you work is the best way for you to work.
Yeah.
And so you got to know your style, know what works best for you. And I've got people that, on my team that really have to rehearse things, and that works best for them.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I would beat myself up because, I didn't do the rehearsal or I wouldn't prepare like I should. And finally, my team just said, you just need to embrace this. This is just how you are. And honestly, when you prepare, because I tend to over prepare when I prepare, is that it comes across as very wooden and stiff. So you're much better on the fly. But again, you got to understand, like I've got 40 years worth of business experience and leadership experience. So I'm definitely not an expert. I'm not an expert on much, but on leadership, when I'm talking about my subject matter, I'm an expert. So I know what I'm talking about, and I've got a vast repository of stuff that I can draw from. But every one of you is an expert on something. And most of us suffer from the curse of familiarity. We don't recognize our own genius or our own expertise, but you have one, I promise you. And as long as you can stay within that kind of zone, you're going to be an expert and you're going to come off as an expert.
Such good advice. Thank you for that. So Henrik wanted to know more about the software, the device that you're actually using for audio. Can you point that out again and talk maybe a little bit more?
Yeah, do you want me just to go back to
the phone? Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, so
I'm using... Hold on. Can you get rid of that notification there? Just protecting your privacy.
Yeah, that was actually a spam call,
okay.
So I'd love for you to call them back.
Well, then go call them.
Okay, so I'm using a Rodecaster Pro. Guys, this replaced a stack of audio equipment that I had under my desk. So I had a compressor, I had a noise gate, I had a mixer, all kinds of stuff. This replaced all that. This is genius. And so this allows me to bring up to 4 different microphone sources, and I've got the Heil PR40 plugged into this third one, and this one's empty. I can bring an iPhone in like a call, either via Bluetooth or via hardwire, which is what I prefer. This, I can't remember what that controls. I don't know what that controls. That may control the sounds coming out of my computer. I think it does, actually. And then this controls all the sound effects. Okay, and then this controls like earphones. I can have up to 4 people plugged into it. But it's so stupid simple to use, and I think the quality of it's great.
It is fantastic. Thank you so very much for that. Yep. The one thing it doesn't have is the bleep button, but Michael doesn't need the bleep button. David does.
David does, but I really kind of envied that. I wish that thing that he uses was available on Mac.
I do too. Not. But it looks like the new device from Elgato, the Wave 3, might actually be able to give us some functionality there. So I'm looking forward to getting that in my hands. One more question. Spirit Throw Me a Bone says, do you lose the depth of field when you use the wider lens? And I think they're talking about the teleprompter lens, which is not as wide of a lens.
Yeah, so this is the widest lens. Okay, so let's just compare them. Let's go side by side and compare them. Got to get back to Ecamm here. Okay, so I don't think I do, but you guys be the judge. So that's the depth of field.
Yeah, no, it's
on
good
the
depth of field.
Narrower lens. What do you think, Gloria?
Yeah, I think you get just about as much of the depth of field as the other lens. So. Because
they're both 1.4.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that controls the depth of field more than anything.
Exactly. Yeah, and I use the 50 millimeter on my teleprompter as well. So
Mine's just a 30.
Oh, yours is a 30. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But mine's further away, I think, than yours.
Well, and one hack that you could use, and I've tried the 50, and it was just a little bit, I had to be further away from it, which can sometimes be good in a teleprompter because they don't see your eyes, darting back and forth. But one hack that you can use if you want to use the wider lens, and I didn't realize this till after I bought the narrower lens, is that you could use the wider lens and then use Ecamm's zoom feature to zoom in to cut off the edges of the teleprompter that lens is going to catch.
The more you zoom in, the more potential of degradation you have, but it's not going to be that much either. So I'm looking forward to, because in my new studio where I'm moving to, I'm going to have the teleprompter probably closer to me than I do here. So I'll probably be matching a bit of your setup there. So I'm looking forward to testing that out.
Awesome.
All right. Let's see. We had, okay. Oh, so, sorry. That's in the correct space. What's the crew size for Michael putting it all together? And a few people have actually asked this in terms of, they were asking, did LSP, Live Streaming Pros, create this studio as well as the other studio? And the answer is no. Michael did all of this by himself.
I did. I was ordering all the different pieces. Sometimes I'd ask David, I'd say, okay, so what's the best thing to mount these microphones on? And so he directed me to a YouTube video where some guy had a setup that was amazing. So I'd order the pieces. Sometimes they would work, sometimes they wouldn't, but it took me probably about a month. It was kind of my, love project that I was doing when I had some downtime, and I really, really enjoyed the tinkering with it. So I literally just added the second microphone because I thought I'm not right under that first microphone when I'm using the teleprompter. And so it's kind of a work in process. And in fact, I'm thinking about adding an Elgato light off to this side of my face because I have daylight that comes in here, but if I'm doing something at night, I don't have the advantage of that, so I kind of need another light. So like I said, it's a work in process.
Yeah. You guys, Michael, like he was talking about in earlier, he has the most amazing podcast. I know that many of you, when he was talking about it, you were like, oh, I need that. So I want you guys to go to the link that is in the description, michaelhyatt.com/podcasts, correct? Plural. And
that's right.
I want you to go listen to them. Take advantage of the free advice that you get from Michael. And Michael, are you doing any public streams at the moment that people can watch?
I'm not on a regular basis. and this is kind of an interesting thing. I kind of have a ongoing battle with my team because they feel like I need to be very cautious about how much I distribute publicly when I've got people that are paying a lot of money to be in my coaching programs. And so most of what I do from a live streaming standpoint is kind of behind the firewall. The podcast is the one exception, but I should say this, we're going to be live streaming that sooner rather than later. So part of why I want to do that is because, I don't know if this is true for you, Luria, but I perform better when I'm in front of a live audience because there's not the opportunity to do a retake.
Yep.
And so it forces my brain to think differently. I wouldn't say more careful, but I get it out better the first time because I know I don't have the luxury of a retake.
Yeah.
Whereas with the way we do the podcast now, I can say, okay, wait, stop. I want to say it different than that. You can't do that when you're live. And so I want to take the podcast live, and we also want to publish the video. We were doing that 3 years ago. We were publishing the video, and at that time, I think we were a little bit ahead of the time. And we even tried live streaming it through, this is going to be a blast from the past, Blab.
Oh,
remember that?
There you go.
That was like the
yes.
most amazing, promising software that totally sucked. The live streams were so broken. They couldn't handle the bandwidth. They ended up finally folding, but it was a good idea.
Oh, I love that. So you guys definitely follow his pages on Facebook and YouTube to make sure that you're getting notifications when he does go live, because he does sometimes. And I cannot wait to have you back on the show. Thank you so very much for your advice, but also geeking out with the Ecamm Live community. We have all very, very much appreciated it.
Well, this was the highlight of my week because the thought of being able to geek out with you was pretty exciting. So thank you for your friendship, and thank you for all you've taught me about live streaming.
Thank you. big hug. But we're going to dance this out at the end. Are you ready, Michael?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right.
We need some music. All right.